Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om
Om
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo
Om
Bhagavate
Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
So we are continuing with chapter number 7 of Bhagavad Gita as it is. Knowledge
Hare
of
Krishna Gita
Absolute.
ji.
Yes.
Please record. Okay, thank you. Thank you,
Yes,
Gita
I'm
ji.
recording. Yes.
Thank you.
So we are continuing with chapter number 7 of Bhagavad Gita as it is, knowledge of the absolute, and we will cover verse 24 onwards till the end of the chapter. Verse number 24. Avyaktam vyaktim apannam manyante mam abhuddhayah param bhavam ajananto mamavyayam anuttamam. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Unintelligent men who do not know me perfectly think that I, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, was impersonal before and have now assumed this personality. Due to their small knowledge, they do not know my higher nature, which is imperishable and supreme. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakya Chakshurmamitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. It's a very long purport, so I will give a summary of the whole purport in this lecture. So as we can see that in this verse that we read today, Krishna is again talking about his supremacy. And not only that, even though he's saying he is the supreme personality of Godhead, he's been saying that from chapter 2 onwards. But here he is emphasizing on one word which is called personality, which means he is a person, he has a form. Many times people who are called impersonalists, they do not believe in the form of the Lord. They think that Lord is just a light, is just like the effulgence or some bright light. But here Krishna is talking about his personality, which means he's a person. And even Lord Brahma, his very first verse that he gave to us in Brahma Samhita was Ishvara Parama Krishna Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha. Vigraha means a form. And what kind of form it is? It is eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss. That is the spiritual personality, which is the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. And Prabhupada also states that Krishna, he was present before Arjuna during the battlefield of Kurukshetra, right? He was present. So he wasn't present in front of Arjuna like a light. It's not that Arjuna saw a big light and said, oh, this is Krishna. No, there was a form, which is called the Sham Sundar form, the two-handed with the flute in his hand. So Krishna was present before Arjuna in his personal form. And even Yamunacharya, who's one of the acharyas in the parampara, he states that Srila Vyasadeva, who's an incarnation of Krishna, and Narad Muni, who's a pure devotee of the Lord, they also know Krishna to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead who has a personal form. Of course, the scriptures, they talk about pastimes of Krishna. Now, can there be any pastimes with a light? Like, like I say, oh, I'm in love with this person, and let me introduce you to this person. And when, you are introducing, there's just light. What kind of relationship is that? It's just light. No. Scriptures also talk about Krishna's pastimes. When they talk about pastimes, which means there has to be a personality, there has to be a person, and that pastime is possible only when there is a form. So it is not very easy to understand Krishna without his mercy. So that is why he is giving us so much knowledge. And this chapter itself is called Knowledge of the Absolute, which means Krishna is trying to give knowledge about himself, and he's also making sure that we follow the process. What is the process? Chapter 4 of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashina sevaya. That we have to approach a bona fide spiritual master and try and understand from him. With the guidance and mercy of the Guru, we will be able to understand. But Prabhupada in the Prabhupada states that if we have a personal agenda, if we are in the habit of speculations, speculating, oh, in my opinion, I think so, according to me, my view. So when we have that attitude, then we cannot understand Krishna, because we are imperfect beings. What are the four imperfections we have? We have tendency to cheat, we make mistakes, we are in illusion, and we have imperfect senses. So if we ourselves are imperfect, there is no way we on our own can come up with the knowledge about perfect source, which is the Supreme Lord. So Prabhupada mentions in the purport that many people think that Krishna is a powerful living entity. Some of the translations of Bhagavad Gita in India, they talk about, some talk about Krishna, the person who, Krishna who is speaking the Bhagavad Gita is actually a light. And some translate Bhagavad Gita with the information, knowledge that Krishna was a very powerful person that had come 5,000 years ago. No, Krishna is the Supreme Lord. Scriptures are clearly mentioning that he is the Supreme Lord. And of course, Krishna also tells us in Bhagavad Gita, avajananti mam mudha, manusham tanam ashritam, that foolish people deride me when I appear in a human form. He comes in a human form so we can relate to him, you see, but he still comes in his spiritual body. It is transcendental. It's Sat Chit Anand, eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss. So fools, they cannot understand anything. Oh, he's just another powerful human being that has come. But from Bhagavad Gita, we learn that to understand Krishna, to understand him as a personality with whom we can build a relationship, just like, when, if I am of a marriageable age, which I'm not right now, but if I am at a marriageable age and my parents say, oh, we found a suitable match for you, and I said, okay, what does he look like? And they say he's light. It doesn't work like that. I cannot marry a light. How can I build a relationship with light? That's even unthinkable. So when it comes to a relationship with the Supreme Lord, who is our creator, who is our seed giving father, if he doesn't have a form, how can we have a relationship? And there's a very good saying, man is made in the image of God, right? So if we have a form, obviously if we are made in the image of someone, that personality also have to have a form. And it's possible to understand Krishna only with the help of devotional service. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada is talking about how we can become fully Krishna conscious. And that is possible by chanting, hearing, and associating with devotees. Let's go to the next verse, number 25. I am never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them, I am covered by my internal potency, and therefore they do not know that I am unborn and infallible. You see? So Krishna decides whom to bestow mercy upon. Now, is that fair or not? I think it's fair. Ye yatham mam prapadyante tam sthatheva bhajamyam. Krishna says, as one surrenders unto me, I reward them accordingly. So if we have a sincere desire to know Krishna, if we are sincerely performing devotional service, then naturally Krishna will be pleased and he'll bestow his mercy upon us, and he will give us the intelligence by which we can understand him. It's not possible to understand by just picking up a Bhagavad Gita, reading it or hearing it. No, it's not. We need the mercy of Guru and Krishna. And here, what does Krishna say? He is covered up by Maya for who? Those who are foolish and unintelligent. And they cannot know who Krishna is. Now, foolish and unintelligent, why would he? No one likes to be called unintelligent or foolish. Definitely not. So why is he saying that? Because if we have got this rare human form of life, and if we are not using it for self-realization, then obviously we are not using our intelligence. So in other words, we are foolish and unintelligent. So even though Krishna was present 5,000 years ago, In the battlefield of Kurukshetra, everybody could see him, right? Arjuna saw him, Pandavas saw him, all both the parties, gathered there. Everybody saw Krishna, but there were only few who knew that this is God. Like the five brothers, Pandavas knew, Bhishma Pitama, the grandfather of Arjuna knew. So there were very few who knew that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not everyone. Why? It's because they were not ready to accept the knowledge. They were not ready to follow the process of Krishna consciousness. Look at the Pandavas. They were completely surrendered unto Krishna. It did not matter to them whether they were in happiness or distress. They went through so many miseries, but still they never gave up that association of Lord Shri Krishna. Now, their mother, Queen Kunti, who's the mother of the Pandavas, she is, in the purport Prabhupada talks about her, he says that she was praying to Krishna and she was saying, Krishna, you are covered by Yoga Maya, so ordinary people cannot understand you. But if a person performs devotional service as recommended in the Bhagavad Gita, then it becomes possible to understand Krishna, which is the highest religious principle. So, she prayed. There are beautiful prayers of Queen Kunti in Srimad Bhagavatam, as you can see over here. This is the whole set of Srimad Bhagavatam. And there she is praying to Krishna to remove his impersonal light so she can see his eternal form of bliss and knowledge. So that means she knew that Krishna is not light. He has a personality, he's a supreme personality of Godhead. And the form is covered by Brahma Jyoti and only intelligent people can see. Now, in the verse we read, Krishna says that he is unborn, he is inexhaustible. He has unlimited pastimes. So it is not very easy to understand. But Prabhupada explains that if we have that sincere and serious desire to understand the Bhagavad Gita, to follow the Bhagavad Gita, then the path becomes very easy. Otherwise, it is a very difficult path. Let's go to the next verse, number 26. O Arjuna, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I know everything that has happened in the past, all that is happening in the present, and all things that are yet to come. I also know all living entities, but me, no one knows. You see? So it's again the same point. It is not easy to understand Krishna, but if Krishna is merciful to us, then we are able to understand. Now, again, in this verse, we can see he's asserting his position as a supreme Lord. He knows everything, past, present, and future, right? Do we know our past? Do we know what we were in our previous life or in previous 100 lives? I don't think we even remember. How many of you remember what was the lecture about last Wednesday? Not possible. How many of you remember what is the first thing we started with this evening? We've forgotten. Why? Because that is our memory in Kali Yuga. It is very, very small. And we don't even remember, of course, some of the incidents we do remember very nicely, where we were insulted, we were yelled at, or someone did something wrong to us, all those memories, we hold on to it and leave them in our heart, locked up, and key is thrown in the ocean, like we don't want to get rid of those. Why? Because those are hurtful incidents. But here, Krishna is talking about past, present, and future. We don't know our past. We don't know what bad or good karma we have done. We don't know why, we are suffering. And right now, present, yes, we know a little bit about what's going on now, but we don't know what future holds for us, right? Anyone here who is like an astrologer, even if you're an astrologer, you can't really tell what is the future. But Krishna says, I know the past, present, and future. And he says, I know everything, and I know all living entities, everyone. But No one knows Krishna. Only the pure devotees can know Krishna. So this verse is again proving that Krishna has a form which is spiritual. Of course, if he had a material body, which means it would change, right? If it's a material body, it changes. Like we don't look like what we look like when we were 5 years old, definitely not, or 2 years old, or even 16 years old. No, we look so much different. Our body has changed. Why? Because it's a material body, and we forget because it's a material body. But if Krishna had a material body, then how could he remember past, present, and future? That itself shows that he has a spiritual body. He even remembers, if you remember in chapter 4, he starts off by saying, Imam vivasvate yogam proktavan aham avyam. He says, I gave this spiritual science to the sun god Vivaswan, which is 120 million years ago. Krishna remembers that too, that he spoke this knowledge such a long time ago. That itself shows that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, how does he know all the living entities? We've already learned this before, where Krishna says that I am situated in everyone's heart as the Paramatma, as the Super Soul. And as the Super Soul, he knows everything that is going on in the mind and hearts of all living entities. We may think, oh, I'm going to go in a dark room, no light, nobody inside, and whatever I do, no one is going to see, no one would know. Well, Krishna would know. Why? Because we cannot run away from him. He is within our heart, and he is the Paramatma. He is the witness, he is the guide, and he is the only one who sanctions all our desires. So Krishna, he is like the sun, and illusion, Maya, is like the cloud. Yeah, we can see the sun and we can see the clouds also. Now, the sun, it appears that the sun is covered by the clouds, but the sun is not covered. It appears to us that it is covered. So Maya cannot cover Krishna at all. Why? Because Maya is the energy of the Supreme Lord. Let's go to verse number 27. O son of Bharat, O conqueror of the foe, all living entities are born into delusion, bewildered by dualities arisen from desire and hate. This is not good news at all, right? He's saying that all living entities are born into delusion. That means when we are born, we don't come out like scholars, like we know it all, like we know everything. No, it says they are born in delusion and they're bewildered by dualities arisen from desire and hate. What are the dualities? Heat, cold, happiness, distress, fame, infamy, so these are the dualities of life. So we as conditioned souls, we get bewildered by all this, but we have to understand, even though we are born in delusion and we are bewildered, but still there is an opportunity for us to remove that bewilderment. There is an opportunity for us to remove that delusion from our lives. Why is Krishna calling us as deluded and bewildered? Because we have forgotten our real position. Jivera Swarup Hoye Krishnera Nityadas. Our constitutional position is the eternal servant of Krishna. It's not a servant on Wednesdays or Sundays or Saturdays. No, it's eternal, which means 24/7, all the time. We need to remind ourselves that I am not the enjoyer, I am not the controller, I am just a servant of the Supreme Lord. So because we have forgotten our real position, we don't have knowledge. So that is why we are in illusion, which is Maya, and that is why we cannot understand Krishna. Now, Maya, it manifests itself in these dualities of desire and hate. And how? Because we all know that we have a lot of anarthas in our heart, which are the unwanted things like lust, anger, greed, pride, envy. All these, they are within our hearts, which are anarthas. And with these anarthas, we are all the time calculating, manipulating. We are all the time dealing with dualities. and especially of desire and hate. Oh, I want this. I hate this. I hate this person. I hate this thing. So all this is going on, but some of us, some people, they think that if I merge into the supreme personality of Godhead's form, then everything will be peaceful and everything will be finished. No, it doesn't work that way. It's only when we perform devotional service sincerely, then all these unwanted things in the heart, the contamination is removed. Then there is no more desire or hate. And then we can understand Krishna and his energies and his potencies. But if there is no knowledge, if we don't know who am I, what am I doing in this material world? Why am I suffering? Where should I go from here? What is my destination? If we don't have knowledge about all this, then we remain deluded and we remain bewildered. Then how can we understand Krishna? That's not possible at all. So we need to take on this knowledge, and knowledge is called jnana, but then we need to put it in practice, which is called vijnana. That's how we receive wisdom. Let's do the verse number 28. Actually, we'll do only till 28, not till the end of the chapter. Actually, let's see. Yeah, there are two more. Okay, we can finish the chapter today. Verse number 28. Persons who have acted piously in previous lives and in this life, and whose sinful actions are completely eradicated, are freed from the dualities of delusion, and they engage themselves in my service with determination. See, determination is the main part, because unless there is determination in anything that we do, whether it is material or spiritual, we will not find success, because determination plays an important role in our success. So here Krishna is making it very clear that piety is important. So we need to have pious credit. And how do we gain that pious credit? By associating with the devotees, by hearing, by chanting. This is how we, increase our spiritual bank balance. And also he talks about sins eradicated. Now, have we all sinned? Yes. Are we still sinning? Yes. Are we going to continue to sin? Yes. That's bad news, right? So what should we do? So Krishna gives us a simple solution in the last chapter of Bhagavad Gita, verse number 66. He says, Sarva dharman parityagya mam ekam sharanam raja aham tuam sarva papebhyo mokshishyami masucha. He says, do not fear. Just abandon all varieties of religion and surrender only unto me. And what will be the result? He says, I'll remove all your past sinful reactions, which means our uh, uh, sin balance of our sins will become zero. That is what he's guaranteeing. Then there will be no more delusion. Then one will be able to engage in his devotional service with determination. That is a transcendental position. But if a person is not pious, is still committing sinful sins, is still continuing with sinful life and is not doing any devotional service, then what will happen? Then it will be very difficult to go above these dualities. See, it's very important. Why Bhagavad Gita is giving us so many rules and regulations, do's and don'ts. Why? Because they are necessary. We need to follow the rules and regulations so that we can start progressing on the spiritual path. With the help of devotional service, we can come to a stage of pure Krishna consciousness, and that is a spiritual platform. And that is where it is possible to experience bliss, permanent happiness. Right now what we are experiencing in this material world is temporary happiness. We are happy today, we are not happy tomorrow, then we are happy, then we are sad. So this cycle is going on and on and on. Something that we thought is going to give us a lot of happiness, after some time doesn't give us any happiness anymore. Now we are searching for something else to give us happiness. Why? Because by nature we are happy people. By nature we want to be happy. We are parts of the Supreme Lord who is happy, who is blissful, right? Sat Chit Anand. Anand means bliss, complete bliss, full bliss. So we also being his parts, we are looking for that bliss, but we are looking at the wrong place. So, but when we practice Bhagavad Gita regularly, we practice by chanting and reading and hearing, etc., then this will bring us to the stage of liberation, a liberated stage, which means then we do not get disturbed by the dualities. It does not disturb us if someone is insulting us, if we are facing failure, if there is infamy or whatever it may be. It's not going to affect us. Why? Because we have reached a spiritual platform, we have reached to a stage of liberation, and for that association of devotees is important. So now we need to decide what path do we want to take, whether it's piety, it's Krishna consciousness, spiritual association, do we want to get liberated, or do we want to continue in this cycle of birth and death again and again and again? Now, if we use our intelligence, which is a philosophical intelligence, and we decide, no, I don't want to come back into the cycle of misery, so what should I do? Then we should start associating with pure devotees. And one of the ways is what we are doing today. We are associating with Srila Prabhupada by reading the Bhagavad Gita as it is, by taking knowledge from his purports, and we are trying to read the knowledge given coming down in strict disciplic succession from Krishna himself. So when we come to the pure devotees, they help us. And why do the pure devotees come to the material world? Not because they like to be here, but they like to liberate people like us. They want to help us to come out of this cycle of birth and death. Let's go to verse number 29. Intelligent persons who are endeavoring for liberation from old age and death take refuge in me in devotional service. They are actually a Brahman because they entirely know everything about transcendental activities. So here is a process how to break the cycle of birth and death. What do we need to do? We need to endeavor. And we need to endeavor sincerely, and we have to take refuge in Krishna. First of all, we need to have that basic faith. Yes, Bhagavad Gita is spoken by the Supreme Lord, and Krishna is the one who spoke it. And the other scriptures also are talking about the supreme position of Krishna. So when we take refuge in Krishna, then we will be able to break the cycle. And why do we want to break this cycle of birth and death? Because we are spiritual beings. We are like fish out of the water. We need to go back into the water, which is our spiritual body, by performing devotional service, and then go to the eternal destination where we belong. And that will be possible only when there is no more contamination. You see, even if it is said that even if we have a tinge of material desire, we are disqualified to go back to the spiritual world. We have to become desireless. Desireless means not have no desires, but to have only spiritual desires. Then that will be a liberated stage, and that will be our original position. When we are fully conscious of the Supreme Lord, then Prabhupada says in the purport, then we will enjoy association of Krishna, even in this life, even in this material body. You see, just by using this material body, spiritualizing it. A very nice example is you take an iron rod and you put it in fire. Now, before you put in the fire, if we hold on to that iron rod, nothing happens. But when we put that iron rod in the fire and let it burn in there, and we remove that iron rod, which is looking red hot, if we touch it, what is going to happen? Our hands are going to get burnt. Why? Because the iron rod has got fireized. That's not a word, but I'm just using it. It's got the same, what is that word? It's the same as fire. It works just like fire, right? It's going to burn our hand. So also this material body, when we use it in Krishna's service, it becomes Krishnized. It becomes spiritual even though we are still having a gross material body. Let's go to the next verse. This is the last verse. Those in full consciousness of me, who know me, the Supreme Lord, to be the governing principle of the material manifestation of the demigods and of all methods of sacrifice, can understand and know me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even at the time of death. This is a good news because the final exam is the time of death. What does Krishna say? Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajat ante kalevram. Whatever state we are in at the time of death, whatever we are thinking at the time of death, to that state we will attain without fail. So, for us to prepare ourselves to pass that final examination, what does Krishna say? If we become fully conscious of Him, if we understand that He is the Supreme Personality of God, then at the time of death, we will be able to know Him. So, Bhagavad Gita is not only teaching us how to live, but it's also teaching us how to die. Because this rare human form of life is meant for breaking the cycle of birth and death. So, this is what Bhagavad Gita is teaching us. So, this chapter actually explains how to become fully Krishna conscious. First, we associate with devotees, and then we follow the process of chanting and hearing. We take on the knowledge and we understand I am the soul, I am eternal servant of Krishna. And then we also understand, how am I getting entangled? How am I forgetting? Right? In early chapters of Bhagavad Gita, I think it's chapter number 3, Krishna says, Yagnarthat karmano natra loko yam karma bandhana. Bandhana means bondage. That if we perform our actions not as a sacrifice to the Supreme Lord, then there is bondage. Why? Then we are performing all that for personal sense gratification. So we need to understand what makes us get so entangled. Why? How come we are forgetful? Why are we suffering? And understand the importance of human form of life, which is very, very rare. And human form of life is given to us for self-realization. So in conclusion, we can see many subjects were discussed in this chapter from verse number 1 to the last verse, which is number 30. Krishna talked about 4 kinds of people who surrender to him. He talked about 4 kinds of people who do not surrender to him. Then he talked about Manushyanam Sahasreshu. Out of thousands, one will try for perfection, and out of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. That is what he says. Then he also in this chapter talks about Bahunam Janmanam Ante. After many, many births, one person may understand that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, but Krishna says such a person is very rare. Then Krishna also explained to Arjuna about demigods, what is the destination, when we start worshipping demigods, what is the destination. Then he also gave us the process of how to know him completely. He also said that I'm the seed-giving father of all living entities. And a very important verse, he says, Devihi Esha Gunamai Mama Maya Duratyaya, that this material energy of mine, it's very difficult to overcome. He's making it very clear that you are in this material world, it is going to be difficult. But he says, those who surrender unto me can easily cross over this ocean, easily. You see? And then finally, he's teaching us how to die, remembering Krishna, and go back to the spiritual world. So how do we perform devotional service? One of the verses talked about with determination. Determination is very important. So there are 3 things important. Actually, 4 things: enthusiasm, determination, seriousness, and sincerity. These are the very 4 important parts of our spiritual life. So if we can somehow the other, incorporate that in our devotional service, then we will see the progress. Then we will see that how the contamination is being removed from the heart, and how, a bright light of knowledge is helping us to understand, oh, who is Krishna? Who am I? And then gradually the self-realization takes place. And then once reaches that stage, in 18th chapter, Krishna says, Brahma Bhuta Prasanna Atma na shochati na kankshati. You reach that Brahma Bhuta stage, that transcendental platform where you experience permanent happiness. So hearing and chanting in this process is very, very important. So this is how this chapter ends. So I want to know if any of you have any questions. No questions? Okay. I hope you all are chanting at least one round every day. Okay, so if there are no more questions, then we will see you next Wednesday. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Thank you,
Thank you, Gita.
Gitaji. Thank you.